Uh, Welcome back, and to the next speaker. You're going to speak about PEP, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess you will want to say more than me about it. So.
Hi, I'm Bryon. Last year I submitted the PEP 423, which is about names in packaging, mostly names of projects and packages distributed within projects that are published on PEP, but also private projects. The feeling when I started this PEP was names on PEP were a mess because there are so many different patterns. So I tried to collect best practices from the community and see if we could get conventions. So last year, who heard about this PEP? Nobody. So I guess I have to explain a bit the PEP. You will see the lightning talk I will present later in the afternoon. I was planning to present it on Wednesday, but it's today. The fact is there are issues with naming on PyPI. As an example, there are crashes. An example is a Python file and Django file projects both distribute a file package. So the issue is that you cannot install both in an environment. You can actually install both, but you can only use one because the Python class only finds the first. And there are many unrated namespaces on PyPI. ZC.rst2 is an example. Many users don't discard this project because they think it's specific to ZC, which is a Zob corporation, and but it's a generic project. It's related to docutils. So ZC here in the name makes more noise than it's not helpful for beginners who don't know this project. So there are issues like that, and the idea here is to correct if you know about some issues. Just tell me so that we can add them to the PEP and see if the PEP answers the issues. The PEP proposes some solutions. As an example, to use a single name as a convention. It means you pip install celery. This is a project name. So you import celery, which is the package name. It's quite simple, and it resolves many issues. Also to follow PEP 8. Many project names don't follow PEP 8. Also to use a single namespace. ZC.rst2 is using nested namespaces, and if namespaces aren't related between each other, it produces confusions, and sometimes people want to use names or namespaces for categorization, and that's not the goal of the name. If you want to use categories, you can use metadata, such as classifiers or keywords. So the name should remain simple. And the PEP states that new project should follow PEP 423. That it's quite easy to apply, but existing projects can be. The word can is important. They don't have to, they can be renamed, and the PEP proposed a recipe to register a new project with a new name and deprecate the old project. There is a recipe existed, but it's not very well known. And the easiest way to be PEP 423 compliant is to state about your naming conventions. If you do not follow PEP 423 conventions, it's okay if you document it. You tell the main use case is for big projects like Django, where the community uses a pattern which is a Django dash name of the project, and we import name of the project like Django dash send file and import send file. It produces issues like with Django dash send file and Django dash pipeline, for example, and at least the PEP tells at least Django project should make this convention obvious by documenting it. So the PEP is a draft, and we are here to discuss about it and see if the ideas are. What do you think about it? So, do you have questions? Some points that are not clear, or do you have feedback?
So should I wait for the notebook?
Yep.
Okay. So if there's no namespace, does that mean that the category, like Django Dash, should be set in some other place?
It could be. Of course, existing projects don't have to. So existing conventions, like there are many Django dash something projects, so we can order authors to migrate. In fact, they won't migrate, or maybe perhaps if a Django project tells everyone to migrate, but I don't think it will happen. The main idea is that the Django dash could be set in the setup.py file with metadata, because there is a classifier, Django framework, and this is enough to find the project to fill on PyPI and find all projects we are related to Django. And sometimes you could have a project which is related to Django, and you cannot name it after thanks contrib dot something and dash something. You can tell thanks contrib dash Django dash something. It's ridiculous. And metadata is enough to describe the categories and so on. There are projects like plon.app.something or active.generic.webbuilder is enough. That's the point of the idea of the PEP. Last year, when I proposed the PEP, I first proposed a solution where there was ownership top namespace. Let's say something like Bryon dot my project, and so that we don't hashes, because everyone can have its own namespace. But it was really discussed, and it didn't get consensus. So and many people told me you should get things flat, because flat is better than nested, and things will be simple. So there is a update. I send it today, but it was not published yet. This update tells you should use a single namespace, a flat.
So, how would you then solve, like, somebody has a project out there that you...
Thank you.
I see a problem there with a single namespace is that somebody has a package out there that does something, you want to improve on that, you cannot find the author, he doesn't respond, it takes a while on PyPy, I don't know if you ever tried it, before you can like actually kick somebody off a package and capture the authorship package there. I did it twice, and it takes just a while, and if you just want to publish like an improved version or a complete different version that tackles the same problem, how would you do the name? Like very practical, I'm looking at the WM control package and it doesn't work. Do I go on and try to find the author or my own stuff that does work in my own space, which is what I was intending to do? Yes. How would you solve that if you have a single namespace? Because
there is no simple solution. As I understood all the discussions, is that the PyPI is a reference. It's a place where you register for names. While your name isn't registered on PyPI, it doesn't exist. So yes, when there is a project you don't like or which is inactive, that's the case.
Yeah.
And you want to contribute to it, but there is two solutions. The first one is to contact the author of this project and try to contribute. If you can't, because the author doesn't answer your request, the only solution I see is to create a new one, but not in a name as another with another name.
Yeah, but then if you do that, then there's no relationship, not necessarily between the name and your package. Like one of the things that hijacked or used was UWSGI, and so it was not possible to update that reference in there. It was not malicious, but the guy was just not found, and it takes a while before you can. If the person who had used the name before just wants to go on with that and doesn't want you to merge your proposed source code changes, then the only option you would have is use a different name. But if you don't have dot names, there's very little you can say like, oh, there's now a direct relationship between the last part after the dot and the package that you will be installing. And I don't see, like, what do you want then to like put a 2 behind it, or like just take up a bogus name, or take a UUID, and then you want what you want to have, as a package user and as a package maker, you want to have a relationship between the name you have up there on DevPy and what you install.
I'm not sure to understand. Sometimes I don't understand.
Sorry.
So can you take an example? So you want to create a project to contribute as to another project, like?
No. I want my. If I would make a project WM Control, which is a wrapper around the WM Control utility on Linux, and I cannot agree with the original author of the current WM Control package there, what should I do? Because I want to have some way that the name that I use also indicates what the package does. I don't want to just have a random name. And the better you make the namespace, the more taken and don't get anything useful out. Yeah, essentially some way of owner namespace, and for me, that it says ZC dot before it, even indicates a sort of a start, that I know, okay, I like the other ZC, so I'll get this one as well, or pi dot from Holger Krekel. It's like, okay, of course you don't reserve namespace, but if someone goes in there, it's like, hey, why you do that? But if it's flat, somebody just takes it, and it might just what is get in there. Some of these packages you to replace. That's enough said.
I also have an issue with flat, but I also have an issue with owner. The issue with owner is, I know there's several people having the same name, first name and last name, so that could be an issue. If you put it flat, how do you deal with, for example, send file for Django and send file for Web2Py? Because when you want to pip install send file, you can't specify the metadata or say, I want the send file for Django, the send file for... Can you do something like that?
Yes, yes. Because you actually can use namespaces, but the point is when you use namespaces, you should make sure the namespaces have strong relationships. If you do a package specific to Django, you could have Django contrib or something, or some namespace proposed by the Django project, like Sphinx contrib or Flask. Flask does it. It has a flask.x dot something namespace, and the recommendation of the Flask project is that contributions go in that namespace. So the projects could use a namespace if they are specific to something. I took the talk about private projects. When projects are cross-source, it could be your company dot something, could be a project name and a page name, but you just have to, the concept is to have to make sure that this project is specific to the top level namespace.
So I don't understand, is it going to be flat?
Not flat, the idea is to be flat for most things, except when you need namespaces or when you explicitly want relationships between namespaces, like flask.x something. Projects which register in this namespace are explicitly granted the authorization to use the Flask namespace, and they are de facto related to Flask.
Anyone else?
I would like to remind you, I think it's part of a Python 7 that namespace is a honking good idea and we should have more of those. So I think it's quite obvious that we should have namespaces. It's just what we do. And the flat namespace, I'm quite surprised that I also don't like the owner thing, but having with GitHub and these kinds of things where they have it very frequently, I think it's a good solution to just prefix some random name and get used to that.
What about maintaining the namespace outside the name of the package in the metadata? Is it possible?
It would break. The PEP tries to be a bit consistent. So if you use a single namespace, a single name, it's using the same name for project and package. You can't use the namespace in the metadata. The answer with GitHub to the ownership that yes, I propose the first proposal that to have ownership or something, dash something there. 2 levels, and mostly for in most cases only 2 levels. Many people complain about it because they like flat things. And about namespaces, one thing seems clear is that people don't want to have deep nested namespaces. 1, okay. 2, okay, perhaps. 3, they begin to, they don't want. More than 3, nobody wants it.
Ragazzi, noi siamo usciti con
In the answer
Okay.
I received. 1 or 2. The new proposal is I proposed 1 because of the answer I got. We will see if I guess some people will have the same reactions than you, and tell why only 1, because it's clashes are easier, and so why not 2?
I just don't get why my I just don't get why my PI username it's clash free, because it gets assigned. Why that should not be workable? There's lots of worlds where that happened, and I kind of forgot. But CPAN had both. It had the author-driven hierarchy, and it had the the actual namespace hierarchy. I think it's kind of inconsistent that PyPI doesn't have a namespaces, and I think it absolutely totally should have it, and make it visible who is maintaining the package on PyPI.
Okay.
My opinion.
Yes. It was mine too at first.
Just want to support you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.